start right now by explaining what campaigning is defined as. So, in our policy, campaigning is defined as influencing a member to vote. Oh, okay. Okay. Is it working now? Oh, okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first info session of the fall 2023 by-elections. My name is Ikjot Singh, and I'm the CEO of the CSU. The info session today will be focusing on explaining the campaigning rules. So just going over like what to expect during that period, and also just um, going over a few of the things that you can do and what you cannot do. So just a reminder, right now we're in the nomination phase, which started on October 2nd, will be ending on October 27th. And then we'll be entering the campaigning phase, which is from October 30th to November 6th, and finally polling will happen from November 7th to November 9th. All right, so now we'll be defining what campaigning is. So campaigning is defined as influencing a member to vote for a particular candidate, a particular executive slate, or in a favor or against a particular referendum question. Campaigning includes the sharing of political platforms, campaigning names, slogans, and or promotional materials. So essentially, campaigning is just whenever you influence a student to vote in a certain manner, you're campaigning. So, an important point here is that encouraging someone to vote is not considered campaigning. It's only campaigning if you encourage them to vote for you or for a referendum question, for example. So, for example, like once the campaign period ends, you can still encourage students to vote as long as you're not telling them to vote for you. Um, because the next point is campaigning is only allowed during the campaigning phase. Any campaigning by a candidate preceding or following the campaigning phase shall result in disqualification. So, like I said, if you campaigning before or after, you could be disqualified. So you can only campaign during the 6 days that I mentioned. So October 30th to November 6th. So now I'll be going over the rules of fair play. Candidates shall campaign in accordance with the rules of fair play. Breaking the rules of fair play includes breaching generally accepted community standards, libel, harassment, slander, and general sabotage of the campaigns of other candidates. The following acts are also considered as breaking the rules of fair play. So the first one is abuse of office. So abuse of office basically is just if you're already in a position at the CSU, you may have access to certain resources or you have access to certain like knowledge that maybe a candidate that's never been in the CSU they don't really know about those. So you can't use like your previous office to like abuse these resources to campaign. The second one is use of space. So, no space or facilities used or maintained by the university or the student union, its subsidiary or its affiliated groups may be used for campaigning purposes by any candidate unless it is equally available to everyone else. So, essentially, you can't just book a place for yourself and just use it yourself if it's not accessible to everyone else. So, if you want to, for example, during the campaigning phase, you want to book a table in the SP building, for example, at Loyola, you'll have to contact me first so that it's available to everyone. You can't just go to the university by yourself. So that's just to make sure that everyone has access to the same spaces. The third one is bribery. That's pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, you can't promise any monetary or non-monetary reward to vote for you. The next one is defamation. So obviously, you can't defame any of your adversaries. You can't make any false accusations. You can critique other people on their ideas, but as long as you're remaining respectful and you're only critiquing their ideas, not them personally. The next one is interference. So any attempt to undermine the electoral process, including but not limited to interfering or compromising the CSU's online voting system. So obviously you can't try to hack the system or try to do anything to hinder the electoral process. You cannot misrepresent facts, so you cannot lie. Obviously, you can't say, for example, "Oh, the CSU for years have been doing this," unless you like, if you don't have any proof, you cannot do that. And also for candidates, you can't say, well, candidate X says that they'll do this, even though they have never said that. So you just need to stick to the facts. Next point is physical harm. So once again, that's pretty obvious. You cannot physically harm anyone. You can't beat anybody up. You can't put up any threats, and just remain respectful at all times. You know, we're civilized people here, so you can't do any threats or physical harm. Also, unauthorized campaigners are not allowed. So you can't hire like your private team to campaign for you. It's only you. Um, Okay, campaigning materials may be distributed, posted, published, broadcast, or otherwise disseminated only during the campaigning period. So you can only, for example, put up posters during the campaigning period. You can only make social media posts during the campaigning period. You can't do any sort of promotion outside of this period. But if you do put up, for example, if you make a social media post and the campaigning period is over, you can still leave it up. You don't have to remove it. It's just you can't make a new one. Um, and that goes for student media as well. So, for example, if we're posting on some sort of student media, like the newspapers, for example, you can't do it after the campaigning period, obviously. Physical campaigning is, for example, it's relating to posters. So for posters, you can only use 100% recycled paper. That paper is available at the print shop, which is located in the library building. So we can only use printed 100% recycled paper. And you can put up your posters only on boards that are available in the university. So you can't put it on walls, or like sometimes you may see some like close to the elevators, for example. We can't do that. You can only put it on the boards. Um, Also, some of the boards will be they'll be designated with reserved for CSU elections. So those boards, they'll just be available for election purposes. So we'll remove all the other posters, and it's just for candidates. Um, Also, you may start postering on the first day, one day before, excuse me, at 9 p.m. So you cannot do it before that. And also, if there's any posters close to a polling station, they will be removed. And chalking is also permitted. So if you want, um, so chalking is also permitted. So if you want, you can. Okay. So you can you can ask for permission from your professor, and then you can, write your name or whatever on the board. But just make sure you get permission from your professor first. You can also do classroom announcements. So, for example, if before the class or after the class or during the break, you want to speak to your classmates about your campaign, you can make that happen. Just, of course, once again, you need to ask your professor. The next one is tabling. So, two tables will be available during the campaigning phase in the hall mezzanine. So, tables C and D will be available. Um, and It'll be available from, I believe, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'll be sending you details for that, but it'll be available to every single candidate. And also for tabling, like I said before, you can also table in other places. You just have to contact me first. But for the hall building, it's going to be available by default. You can also make flyers and pamphlets, but once again, it's 100% recycled paper. You can also distribute flyers. You don't just have to put them on boards. So if you want to distribute flyers, for example, you could do that on the 7th floor of the hall building, at tables booked in the mezzanine, and in the Loyola cafeteria. So you can't distribute flyers anywhere else. And once again, 100% recycled paper. For digital campaigning, you can use any social media platform. You can also post on like Facebook pages or Instagram pages that are for student groups. For example, you could post on the Casa JMSB page. Obviously, you need their consent first. Um, and campaigning on social media is permitted starting from 12 a.m. on the first day and it ends on 9 p.m. on the final day. During the voting phase, so right, so the voting will be happening online. So it's an electronic ballot, and it's a platform named Simply Voting. So we've been using that platform for a few months, few years now actually, and it just it allows for like greater accessibility, and it will there'll also be polling stations. So we'll be confirming that in the next few weeks, but normally we have one in the hall lobby, we have one in the SB lobby, in the Venue Library as well, at JMSB, and in the EV building as well. So during the voting phase, you cannot try to vote more than once. It's obviously against the rules. I mean, you won't be able to, but if you try, you could be disqualified. Um, Also, you can't like stand menacingly close to the polling station to try and sway voters at the last second. Like you can't be close to the polling stations. Again, you can encourage people to vote, but not for you. You cannot offer gifts for exchange for votes. You can't pressure anyone that's voting, obviously, and you can't your own device to vote. So you can direct students to the polling stations, but you can't give them like your own phone, for example. Okay, so also you can't collect any credentials from the students. Um, I mean, you couldn't do anything with that with the voting platform, but still you cannot do that. Um, right. So, like I said, the voting system is done on an online secret ballot. You'll be receiving an email on the first day of the polling period with an elector ID and a password, and also a link, a direct link to the ballot. So you just have to press on that and you can vote. Um, the ballot will have your name or chosen name. So if yeah, that's another thing. If you want your chosen name to appear, you can send that to me. And also you can include a 250 word biography. So if you want to explain to students like what you stand for, what are some of your ideas, your platform, that can also be included. Also, a picture can be included if you want. Sometimes it helps students kind of like relate to you if they can like put a face to the name. Um, but your name will be here like at a minimum, and there'll also be an option to abstain. The voting system will be operational on the first day at 9 a.m. and will be ceased to be operational at 9 p.m. on the final day, so on November 9th. And the results will be posted on the following day. Most of the time, the results are available right away, so like maybe 10, 15 minutes later on the website. Um, for Yeah, so if, for example, if you're running unopposed, um, the question will not be like names with ballots. It will just be a yes or no question. So it'll be, do you agree to have such and such be a counselor for, the Faculty of Arts and Science, for example? So it'll be a question instead. And like I said, the results will be available by the latest the next day at 12 p.m. There'll be an announcement, so it'll be on the website and also on social media. It'll also be posted like around the university. Um, the next point is election expenses. So for the by-election, we basically only have for council. So you have a limit of $50. So you have a budget of $50 that you can spend on posters, for example, or anything you want to do, like campaigning materials. You have $50, and at the end of the election, you have 6 days, university days, to fill out a reimbursement form, which is available on the website right now. I'll also be sending one to each candidate. The deadline for that reimbursement form is November 7th. So every single candidate does have to fill out that form, even if you did not incur any expenses. Um, and the candidates will be reimbursed within 30 days of the polls closure. So after November 9th, 30 days, so 30 university days once again. And okay, the next point is sanctions. So a candidate who is found by the CEO to have violated these regulations may be subject to sanctions. So what I just listed, if you do not respect these regulations, you could be sanctioned. If it's depending on the severity of what you did, you could be issued a written warning or reprimand. You could be disqualified from the elections if you do something that is more serious. You may be disqualified. So that is the one of the more severe sanctions, obviously. So um, so any sanction that is imposed by the CEO will be issued in writing no later than 24 hours following the decision to sanction. So if I find that you've violated one of these regulations and you need to be sanctioned, and within 24 hours of me finding out, you will be informed. Um, okay, the CEO shall declare a candidate disqualified should the candidate be found ineligible. So, for example, if you're for whatever reason you're a graduate student who tries to be sneaks his way in as a counselor, you would be disqualified, obviously. Or if you sign a false declaration, so if you lie on your nomination form, if you file a false return, so if you just want to pocket the $50, you can't do that, obviously. Uh, um, Also, maybe you should. And no disqualification could be issued 7 days after the announcement of the results. So if you do get away with it within 7 days, you'll be good. But trust me, you won't. We'll find out before then. You can also contest, obviously. So every member may contest a referendum or an election on the grounds of a person declared elected was ineligible. So if somebody finds out that one of the candidates is ineligible, so you can contest their election. Um, so if they did not obtain like the greatest number of valid votes, you can also file a contestation. If any sort of corruption was used, or if you violated any of the bylaws, the contestation may be filed. Um, so a contestation of an election or referendum must be filed in writing with the chief electoral officer no later than 3 days following the announcement of the results. So for that one, you have 3 days to do that, and decision will be written in 3 days as well. So it's a total 6-day process. Um, okay, so the election commission shall issue a response to the contestation within 3 days. So obviously, if there's a contestation, it may be upheld, overturned, or it could also be dismissed. So if it was made in bad faith, for example, if you're just trying to smear someone and just trying to get them in trouble, it could be dismissed, obviously. Every member can also file a complaint during the campaigning period. So, for example, if you see that one of your adversaries or other candidates are not respecting these guidelines, you can file a complaint. And after that, the process that I just explained would be in place. And every single sanction or disqualification can be appealed. So if you find for whatever reason that it was unfair, you can appeal it. And candidates who have received sanctions or disqualifications may submit an appeal in writing to the judicial board no later than 3 days after the issuance of the decision. So if you want to appeal, you have to go to the judicial board. So you have to write them. So if you're not, obviously, if you feel that you've been wronged or you don't agree with the decision, you can appeal it. You just have to go to the judicial board. And then obviously the proceedings of the judicial board will start. And appeals to contestation. Okay, so any decision by the CEO or the Elections Commission on a contestation or complaint may be appealed by the member who had submitted the contestation or complaint. The appeal procedure shall be carried out as follows. The complaint may submit in an appeal in writing to the judicial board, as I just said, no later than 3 days. Such an appeal may be made on the grounds that the evidence used was false or the judgment of the CEO was manifestly unreasonable. So again, if you don't agree, you can just go to the judicial board, and that's basically it for the disqualifications and the appeals. And Also, you can always request, for example, once the election is over, you can request the results. That is one of your rights. And if you have any other questions, you can contact me anytime. So again, for if you want to book any of the spaces, for example, or if something is unclear regarding the rules, you can always contact me at ceo@csu.qc.ca, or you could come to one of our the offices. We have one at Loyola. It's on the fourth floor of the central building, and at downtown, it's on the seventh floor of the hall building. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Um, so yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I'd like to thank CUTV. Did a great job live streaming this event. And yeah, again, thank you very much. Have a great night. Thank you.